Hey, I'm Jimmy, and this is a copy of Excelsior, The Amazing Life of Stan Lee. And it's written by Stan Lee, and then some other guy they never heard of. Now, I don't read a lot of memoirs or autobiographies, especially about people in entertainment, because so many of their stories they're same in a lot of ways, and really most entertainers, celebrities, really haven't been that influential. But Stan Lee, and Stan Lee's like my hero. Now, I don't really have a hero, but if I did have a hero, it'd be Stan Lee. This guy churned out comic book heroes in the 1960s faster than James Patterson can pump out those so-called novels that he writes. I mean, Stan Lee was a shameless self-promoter, but I don't care. He didn't write any good comic books after maybe 1968, but I don't care about that either. And yeah, he had a really cheesy mustache, but I would too if I could get away with it. So let's look at these heroes. Stan Lee created Spider-Man. He created Thor. Well, he didn't really create Thor. The Norse created Thor, but Stan Lee made him relevant. And he created Fantastic Four, Hulk, a bunch of Avengers that aren't on the cover. And why is Silver Surfer on the cover? I mean, Silver Surfer's alright, but I'm just surprised that out of all the other heroes, Silver Surfer would be the one on the cover. Alright, so let's see. Let's see what this book is about. What do they say? Alright, yeah, there you go. The man behind Spider-Man, X-Men. They didn't put that said, I thought it said, and the Legion of Superheroes. No, and a legion of other superheroes. Alright, good. Now, why is the S? Why is Thor saying S? I mean, I get that it's the S for Stan, but why is Thor saying... Anyways, it doesn't really matter. The cool thing about the book, what I like about this book, this might be my favorite book. I mean, I know it's not the best book in the world, but it's probably my favorite because I always smile. I always laugh when I read this book, not because it's like super funny, but just because I don't know. I always smile when I read it. So, Excelsior, Stan Lee, and that's some other guy that I've never heard of whom I've never heard. So this is 2002. And I'm not going to go over every page, but I do want to show you the format. Let me just pick a random page. Okay, so what you have, if I can keep my camera straight, the italicized print, that's the other guy, George Ware. That's like the biographical part. And then the normal font, whatever that is, that's Stan Lee writing it. So you get a combination of Stan Lee writing the story, and then a good part of this book is about Stan Lee before the 1960s. Let me show a couple things, make me laugh, just so you can see what I'm talking about. A couple of the pictures. Oh, there's his wife. That wasn't one of those. That's not what I'm... This right here. Yeah, 1947, his first feature article in a real magazine. The pipe was to make him look literary. Yeah, it just made him sick. See? Now, I don't know if that's laugh out loud, funny stuff, but it's the type of thing that makes me smile. Alright, so another thing that I always remember about this book when I read it, one of the controversial moments. The one part in this review that I'll actually read out loud. Let's see, that's not the right thing. Oh, wait. I'm looking at the wrong. Nothing wrong with that page. Oh, come on. Alright, I tell you, I'm trying to one-hand this thing. Alright, let's look at the S again. Alright, this should be it. Okay, here we go. This is Stan Lee talking. Here's another tidbit of trivia to mull over. I've had a long-running philosophical argument with Steve Ditko over whether I created Spider-Man or, quote, we created him. Steve feels that although the original idea, the original story, and the original description of all the characters were mine, it would never have come to fruition without his illustrations. Well, despite my own opinion of what constitute a character's, quote, creation, my respect for Steve is so great and his contribution to the strip was so important that I'm willing to share the credit and call myself the co-creator. In fact, I'm willing to call myself co-creator of all the characters I've dreamed up, thereby sharing a grateful world's plaudits and accolades with the artists who did me so proud. Alright, so he does give Steve Ditko credit, but he doesn't really. And the reason I bring this up is because I remember when right after Stan Lee died, his daughter did an interview on, what was that, TMZ. And it's kind of awkward. I mean, I understand. Let me close that up so I don't have to hold it down so much. I understand that awkwardness because her father just died, and that's never easy. I don't know how close they really were, but I mean, that situation's never easy. And I don't normally watch TMZ. You know, my wife does sometimes, and she says, hey, this is Stan Lee's daughter. So I thought I'd listen in, but anyways, I don't like TMZ and those types of shows, celebrity shows, where most of it is, you know, stuff like, hey, did you hear about who said what about who? You know, it's just nonsense. And it's all irrelevant in a couple days, so there's really no point in watching it. Anyways, Stan Lee's daughter went on a rant about how all the Marvel characters are all completely created by Stan Lee and none of the other creators, artists like Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, had anything to do with it. And as much as I admire what Stan Lee did, I had said to my wife, you know, that's not true. I mean, Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko did have a lot to do with Marvel's early success. I mean, a lot of those Stan Lee's, a lot of it. I mean, I don't know what the ratio is, 60-40, maybe 50-50, I don't know, 70-30. I don't know what the right ratio, but it was a great combination of talent that was at the right place and at the right time, and it worked. And besides, you know, Stan Lee stopped writing comic books in what, 1968, 1969, 1970? You know, that was just when Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko were moving on to other things. I mean, not the precise year, but close. You know, now luckily the new talent at Marvel that replaced Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko in the late 60s and pretty much the whole 70s, the talent was pretty good at Marvel. And there's still a lot of great Marvel comics then. But anyways, I think you started to see a decline maybe in the 1980s and then a huge plummet in the 1990s. I mean, overall the 1990s were horrible for comics. And Stan Lee does talk about that. He doesn't ignore it. I mean, that doesn't mean every comic book from the 1990s was horrible, but there was just a lot of schlock. Anyway, this is a great book if you like comic books. I mean, you can tell Stan Lee wrote it. It always puts a smile on my face. You know, I call it a feel-good book. But, you know, I hate feel-good books. I shouldn't even said that. Anyways, thanks for watching. I have my own book on Amazon. It's not a feel-good book either. It's called Crap Is Not a Bad Word. And if you don't want to spend money, I mean, my book doesn't even cost that much, but if you don't want to spend any money, you can visit my blog, Dysfunctional Literacy, where I write about books, publishing, and a bunch of other interesting stuff. It's completely different from my videos, but it's worth checking out. All right, hope you liked the video. That's it. I'm done. Thank you. Bye.